Hey, so glad Chester County Young Life is celebrating 40 years of ministry. My name is Bob McCook. I had the privilege of being the first area director here. Came out in 1974 and have been here ever since. Young Life to me is a very creative way to get the attention of kids long enough that you could share who Jesus was, what he did for them, and what it would be like if they gave their lives to Christ. This first school in Chester County was Downingtown. I would always go over to the school when the school was letting out, and I'd stand in the lobby, and everybody saying, "Hi Bob, hi Bob, hi Bob." This girl came up to me just before that, and she said, "Can I talk to you for a minute?" I said, "Sure." And she said, "What you said last night, I want to do it." And I said, "What do you mean? What did I say?" She said, "If you want to become a Christian, come up and see me, and I will tell you how to do that, how to give your life to Christ." I said, "When do you want to do this?" And she said, "Right now." And all these students, there's hundreds of students going by us, but she would not stop because she knew she had to make that decision and make that statement that day. And I thought that was a tremendous, bold step on her part, and a wonderful thing to have happen. This one boy who was Jewish loved coming to our Young Life Club. I got word that he wasn't supposed to come anymore because they thought this was something that would affect the fact that he was Jewish. I had a little conversation with him. I just said, "I think if your parents don't want you to come, you probably shouldn't come." And he just looked at me and he said, "Bob, I have to come. I have to come. This is the best thing." And he kept coming. It was a great school to do Young Life in.
My name's Scott Hamilton, and I was involved with Young Life in Chester County from 1977 to 1984. I'll never forget it when little Ruth Cotticini came up to me, and she put her hands on both sides of my face and said, "Young man, we've been praying for you to come here for the last 10 years, which would have meant I was like 13 years old when they started praying. But when I heard that, I said, "You know what? This is the place for me to be." We started a club at Unionville High School, and I'll never forget the first club. We had 11 kids the first night, 11, which meant there was nobody there to laugh at the skit because they were all in it. Within weeks, the club was off and running at Unionville High School. We went down to Oxford within a couple of months. We had 100 kids of that 600-kid high school. It wasn't always easy. There was a young man, he was going to be one of our stud campaigner kids. He was going to throw a party at his house that night. And I called him up, and he said, "Don't ask me not to." I said, "I'm asking you not to." He says, "I'm going to do it." He threw the kegger. The police busted the party up, and the name of Young Life was just mud at that school. Our club went from a 80-kid club down to 11. But you know what? The night that there were 11 kids at that club, Rob Weir gave his life to Jesus Christ. And that club built back up to about 125 kids. And I'll never forget watching high school kids leading their friends to Jesus Christ in that year. May have been one of my most favorite years I ever had in Young Life.
My name is Mike Cramer, and I am currently the Divisional Training Coordinator for the Eastern Division. But in 1993, I moved to Chester County. When I first moved in, there'd been a good history of Young Life, but we were a little bit in a rebuilding time. We saw Young Life then grow and really become strong in Unionville. We started Young Life in Kennett. We got East really rolling and Henderson rolling. We started Great Valley High School, Phoenixville, and it was just a joy to come and serve and help to develop these ministries. And as I think about our time there, most of the leaders were folks that had professional jobs. We had folks that were graphic designer, a police officer, a veterinary nurse. You go through the list, and they would spend time up at the schools and at games. They would spend time investing into high school kids. A funny story with those relationships too. One of the things that we started doing is this thing called forking. And forking is where you take forks and you put them in somebody's yard, as many as you could. Well, I remember one night, Lori and I are at home, and it's late at night, and our dog starts to bark. And Lori says, "Somebody's outside." What they're doing is they're taking tiki torches. They decided to take it to a new level, so they have tiki torches everywhere in our front yard. She opens the door, and I come running out as fast as I can. Everybody sees me coming, and they start running for the van. These guys are jumping into the van as the van's going down the street. Dave Blanco and Dewey Latta and Jeff Snape and Jesse Smalls. Well, I grabbed one of these tiki torches chasing Dave, and as Dave's the slower of the crowd, he is running, and I'm just whacking him on the back as hard as I can with this tiki torch. And he jumps into the van, I shove the tiki torch in the van. The relationships that we build in Young Life, they're lifelong relationships. They're ones that are more than just spiritual. It's our whole lives that are involved. And I look back and I'm so grateful and so thankful for Todd and Melina and the leadership they've given to Chester County. That in many ways I feel like they have just taken what we were involved with for those numbers of years, and the ministry has just exploded and grown so much around their leadership.
Well, my hope would be, in celebrating this 40 years, my hope would be that somebody is here, will be here when they celebrate 80 years of Young Life here.
Those were the dreams that we had back then. Those are the dreams that we still have today. I'm thrilled that Chester County Young Life is still being championed and led by people like Todd Madonna, the committee that's there, and the other volunteer leaders.
We just wanted to be with kids. We wanted to put leaders that love Jesus in the lives of kids. When we hold the gospel up in front of people, the gospel can change people. The gospel transforms people. We saw so many lives transformed by the power of Christ.
My Young Life Club was 1,100 kids. 80 would show up each week. That whole school was my Young Life Club. We in Young Life go and love kids where they're at, regardless of their response, whether they know they're in your Young Life Club or not, because that's what Jesus would do.